Kia ora tātou. So what I want to talk about today, I am live and incarnate. Your self-concepts where you are the problem. Okay. So what we're going to be discussing, and I've been seeing this a lot. I've been seeing and hearing this a lot in the ripples of society and the constructs that we are built upon within society. So it's really important that you're understanding that your self-concepts are not your emotional structures or your energetic structures. What we are talking about today is your emotional regulation separate to how your mind is working and how you are seeing yourself. If you are in relationships or situations or in circumstances that are feeding narratives that you are not worthy and you're not completely tuned in to the fact that this is happening because you are calling that in, you have to understand that you're the problem in that. Okay? You're the problem in your circumstances that aren't aligning, but you're trying to make work or see how it works, or you're open-minded about something because usually when you're open-minded about something, you haven't yet made a decision on what it is that you truly want. And if you're still waiting for people to show up for you, if you're still waiting to hear from someone, or you are seeing patterns like you've got a lot of inconsistencies in the way that men are treating you, or you seem to pick up mean friends or like mean friends, or this could be that you are in a constant cycle with yourself of disappointing yourself. All of these are based off your subconscious programming on your worthiness, what you deserve, what you will tolerate, because your environment is also a literal manifestation of how it is that you perceive yourself and what you believe you are worthy of. Okay, so the main thing here is understanding that your self-concept of yourself is the one thing that can shift and change. However, you cannot emotionally manipulate the outside world to get what it is that you want and desire. What it does require, though, is for you to tune in and have a deep and stable connection with yourself. So when you have triggers and things that are happening to you on the outside, I like to call them activations. I feel like a trigger is when you're really, really, really like angry, and you're starting to go into those blind rage fits, or you're being pushed to your ultimate level where this person is now getting a emotional reaction out of you. That is sabotage, my friends. So we can create these scenarios ourselves, which means that we can clear them ourselves as well. And again, that requires us to drop deep into our belief systems, but we have to believe in something first, right? So we're clearing something that is actually already programmed to be, think, feel a certain way, and that's your current present version of yourself. when people are coming into your reality and they're acting in ways that are absolutely fucking out the gate rude, disrespectful, they go beyond your boundaries, even if you don't understand that they're going beyond your boundaries, but you just feel bad when you're around them or they're draining. This requires you to have that deep state of reflection to understand that you are allowing that behavior to be present in your life. If you do not like it, you need to remove yourself. Okay? You might see red flags and ignore them and give a chance. You may speak your truth to that person. They hear you. They don't change their behavior, but you stick around. And then you wonder why you're always fucking sad all the time. You wonder why shit never goes your way. You wonder why people take from you. You wonder why people date you and then they go and they find their person, they get married. They leave the relationship with you, they live happily after you. That is a self-concept. If you are believing that that's the role that you play in people's lives, then that's the role you'll play in people's lives. If you believe that your dad hates being around you and every time you're around you have a fight, then that is what's going to happen. Somewhere along the way, you are going to understand that you are the problem because you are also the magician. You are also the person who is leading yourself out of that scenario, right? You're able to create a plan or an action forward on what you can do to create the version of you that you wish to see in the world. It requires you to stay tuned in and have a deep and stable nest environment and create a space where you are in control of your own emotional experience. Right? So if you are constantly left undelivered, or you're constantly left on red, or you're constantly feeling like you're being ignored, then that is a sure sign that somewhere within your living reality, you are doing that to yourself. And it is just that mirror, right? But you have to understand that that is created because of you. And when you understand that, you get the pleasure of taking full responsibility for yourself and creating a different reality for yourself. You get that pleasure. You get to grow your emotional intelligence. The feminine, if you are dealing with someone who is reflecting back to you that emotional immaturity, they're going to emotionally mature you. Your concepts cannot be emotionally manipulated. How you feel is how you feel. What you believe is what you believe, and that is final. So if you have people coming into your life trying you or not trying to be better, then there's something that you need to do differently in order to create that reality where you get that. But it does require you to look at yourself. When we are looking at our self-concepts, we are needing to go to the parts of ourselves that still allow the thoughts of others to affect our vision and ability to hold our vision, because there are still parts of you that think you need the external things, but that is lack. Okay. We're talking about, this is such a vast subject. This is like with everything in your life. You can apply this to every single aspect of your life. But what I'm seeing at the moment, as I navigate through clients and as I navigate through kura school, I'm going out, I'm doing a lot of studying. I'm seeing a lot of people when I'm like working out. And what I'm noticing is that there's still a missing accountability of self for constantly seeking those external confirmations of things. When you come into your self-concept and you are trying to figure out a way on how to naturally become the oracle, then you have to allow anything external that takes away your love of self and makes you feel bad for being yourself or makes you feel too much. Then you have to release that and let it go. But it doesn't mean that you're not letting go of the hope that that's going to manifest in the reality. Once you have really taken ownership of what it is that you're ignoring about yourself. Self-concept is setting the tone of your wairua. Self-concept is what people don't actually need to know about you, but can tell by the way that you speak, by the way that you hold yourself, and by the way you respond to things. That's going to show people where you're at. Not everything needs a clapback as well. There are boundaries on your creative voice, on the way that you are showing up. There are ways that this is why we purge. This is why we do breath work. This is why we do all of these things that make us feel really good about ourselves. Because that is creating the journey of freedom, and it is creating the ability for us to choose from the knowing that we already have within our freedom. When we let those attachments go, when we learn to detach, we are experiencing freedom. Freedom of choice, freedom to be, freedom to realign. It's that permission that you didn't understand that you weren't granting yourself, right? Because you shouldn't have to allow yourself to be a certain way. You should just be that way. But it's about trusting yourself enough to know that you're going to make the right decisions in the right time, when that time comes. So our self-concept is setting the tone for our energy. When we are delving into helping this concept of self, we know who we're going to become, because we can intricately then decide how we emotionally react. But when you're too busy focused on having the thing that you feel like you're not in arm's reach of, right? If you don't have it, if you feel like you're always the girl that's like the girl before the wife, well, then you're going to stay the girl before the wife. No one's going to marry the girl before the wife if you believe that that's your thing. If you believe you have to clap back, if you have to school these men, if you're the one coming in to teach the lesson, then that's on you, right? We're understanding that we're the problem, but we are the solution because we are solution-based. When you are in your divine feminine energy and you are embodied in your masculine, you are solution-based. So what is your outcome? What is the solution? What happens in your story? And how long does it take? You get to decide all of these things, but if you're still reading the same book, the same chapters over and over again, you're going over the same shit, and it's still not changing, it's because you're not casting yourself and giving yourself a solution. So this is why it's really important for us to understand all of our own shit and take responsibility and stop waiting to see what happens. You have to decide. You have to decide what happens when you are the problem, because you are the answer. Everything that you understand yourself to be is what is going to manifest. And you can do all of the meditation, all of the tarot cards, all of the Reiki, all of the Puororako. You can do all of the healing things, but when it comes to self-concept, it is human. It is rational. It is logical. It is tangible. And you cannot expect to build into those philosophies of yourself, into these characteristics of yourself, into these honors and these practices, if you are still entertaining and clapping back to shit that is below you. This is why we need really strong boundaries and to speak our truth first and foremost. If you're still chasing people and having, if you're just having like random sex, not saying all of these things are bad, okay? Not shaming anyone, not putting anyone, trying to make people feel guilty. These are fine. If you believe that that is what you want, kapa you. This is not for you if you're happy with that. If you're not happy with what you're getting out of your relationships, out of your life, then it is time to focus on you. It is time to cut the shit and stop settling, because you deserve the whole fucking world. You have to give that to yourself. And then naturally, it happens all around you. The world starts responding to you. There is a part that sometimes we feel lonely in that experience, but sooner or later, you will understand that you don't have to give shit up, the shit that is lovely for you, that is working for you. There are things in your reality that are working for you, but because of all of this other stuff that you're invested in, you can't build off those strong qualities of yourself because you're allowing yourself to get caught up on the emotional entanglements. And this might be because you have emotional wounds. Take what resonates. But this is not wairua. This is all about your nervous system, your connection to your human being. Okay? You're perfectly available to say no to shit that does not feel good. If you are wanting to be a wife, what kind of wifey? What would wifey do in this situation? Is that something that you would tolerate if you're dating? Right? Dating can be stressful in this day and age. However, you just have to understand that not everyone is the one. Not everyone is for you, just the same as you're not for everybody. You get to choose what you're going to tolerate. Okay? How do we reprogram this self-practice? Well, we have to think how we want to feel. When you are moving towards how you want to feel in your solution, that is what the universe will change and shift, and you will begin to think like that future version of yourself in this present moment. That is how you get what you want. You become her effortlessly, right? A lot of the stuff that we do when we're fixated on the external person or the external job or just like the external anything, the chances are you're doing things that sabotage your growth. Chances are you still are in those mindsets that are preventing you from overcoming your emotional self. You can change those. That's easy, but that requires a lot of depth and a lot of self-reflection. So this is why when we move into the energy work and we speak into wairua, it's easy for us to come back into that space and integrate what it is that we know from all of that information that we've gathered from the unseen realms. So we get to bring that and bridge that back in. They are two separate worlds, though. But when you have a stronger belief system and a stronger self-concept for yourself, it is much easier to navigate through the spiritual realm because you have massive boundaries. You know exactly what it is that you bring and what you're channeling through to earth. You no longer dissociate when you're over there and you don't get hijacked. So your self-concepts of building relationships and strong relationships with people allows you to navigate the emotional and the spiritual realms a lot easier. So this is why breathwork is also such a beautiful modality to work through, because you get to work with the self-concepts and work with the wairua, the energy, at the same time. And it's fucking sad. I hate seeing sad women, sad, beautiful women with so much potential, and you're banking on like just got so much going for you, but you're choosing to play in those old realms, to play in the comfortable, to play in the things that have served you before. Like, when you make small promises to yourself and then you fulfill those through the habits that you have set up to create breakthroughs in your thinking, through the ways that you are no longer dissociating or no longer, you're using your time of rest to really regulate the nervous system. And you know what? This can be through so many avenues. Watching TV, it could be smoking weed and journaling. It could be, I listen to a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of, I've listened to binaural beats in the past and just so many things that I've put into my daily practice. So I'm no longer dissociating, but I'm still using the time that I would dissociate to rest and to rejuvenate my energy so I can have peace of mind. When you have peace of mind, you are able to think clearer. You no longer need that stimulation and that chaotic addiction to anxiety, and you can soothe those, right? But all of that stuff is linked to your subconscious. All of your habits, actions, behaviors, the way you respond to people, the way you talk to people, the way you talk about yourself, everything usually needs to change when you are working on becoming a more softer, a more safer person of yourself, so you're no longer being that trigger. You don't have to be a trigger if you don't want to. Do you like triggering people? I personally fucking hate it. So I made a decision a very long time ago that I'm not going to trigger people anymore. My clients will not be triggered by me. That's not a thing that I enjoy. However, if they're going through some shit and I'm activating them, then I'm going to be there to help them, right? And that goes for all of my aspects of life, not just clients. I don't want to trigger my children. I don't want to trigger my husband. I don't want to trigger my friends. I want to be able to give back and receive. So there was a lot of pre-programming that I had to do around that. But being a trigger never sat nice within my system. I've never enjoyed that. You get what you want when you decide that you are worthy of it. So what are you worthy of? What are you willing to put effort into receiving too? And are you willing to go through what it takes in order to receive that? And it may feel difficult. It may feel challenging. It may feel like a test. However, ultimately, it's the detachment required to consistently show up effortlessly in your being, which ultimately that's, a pretty nice space to be in when you have no stresses on yourself to show up in a certain way. You just accept all parts of you and you can show up in a way that is enjoyable, where you don't need to be triggered. You can show up in a place with someone who is not pushing you to your ultimate chaos where you feel like you have to lose a part of yourself in order to get their attention or get their acknowledgement. It's not being left on red for 3 fucking days and then all of a sudden they want to spend time with you or they want to chat to you. Absolutely fucking not. Consistency, right? Huge turn on. Being reliable. When we meet people, they show us their true selves naturally, okay? And we do the same for that person. So if we're putting in the most, when we should just be relaxing and allowing things to come to us naturally, you're going to see the repeating cycle if you keep putting your back out just to serve yourself, okay? In fact, that's a little bit selfish. So there's some aspects in there too, where it's like, do you think that you should actually get all of this stuff and not have to change, but get it anyway? If that's true, then don't expect the outside world around you to change. If you're not willing to put that work in to make sure that you are a safe person to exchange energy with. All of these are characteristics of behaviors. It's the roles you play. It's your nervous system. It is you managing your responses, managing your emotional regulation. And all of these start with your mind and your concepts. So think about the type of person that you are moving towards. Think about what type of characteristics your future self has that you can do now. Does she affirm? Does she check her phone 500 million minutes a day anxiously? Or does she just know that her person will show up as you need them to, right? That's if you've already got a person. You really, truly, honestly dictate how your relationships go by the way you act and by the way you fucking feel. So make sure that if you're wanting to see maybe a little bit more consistency, a little bit more regulation, that you're regulating your goddamn self. Make sure that if someone's fucking around on you, giving you hot and cold behavior, that you are addressing that shit straight away. Or you're taking yourself out of the situation. Leaving is sometimes the most safest way to do that. Okay. You don't have to make a big drama. You don't have to make it about you. You don't have to cause a scene and then feel bad about it later. You can just take all your shit, gather it all up, and then leave. And sometimes that is the most powerful thing that you could ever do in your whole goddamn life. Particularly if you are very used to handing out clapbacks, okay? If you're used to having the last say, or you love to have the last say, or you love to tell people how they fucking made you feel, when you glow up and you understand that your voice is your power and it is also a taonga, and your energy, to be in your energy and to exchange energy with you is a fucking blessing, you start treating yourself like the blessing, and you understand that you can't be Rhea and then give everything out. So this is about understanding yourself, understanding your own triggers, and also knowing when it is your time to speak and when it is not your time to speak. It is not always your time to speak. You don't have to exert your energy and give your rage and give your anger to people and give your resentment out because you could not uphold your own boundaries. Okay? You are the problem. So how are you going to bring resolution? What is the solution? It is change your minds, change your life. It's very simple once you have the discipline and the self-love and the devotion to changing your life. And I know you have it. That's why you're here watching. And it's special, cute, and lovely. You are amazing. You are amazing, but you can't see it because you feel like you need all of this validation, but you don't. Okay? You need confirmation of all of the good fucking shit that you believe in the world, not validation. You do not need reassurance, but it is nice to be reassured. Okay? There are ways that you can see things differently, and it can be a compliment to you because you're coming into your light and into your alignment. So you're seeing the world shifting around you. Men are treating you differently. Women are approaching you differently. Women are wanting to exchange with you differently. There is a mutual respect because you are mutually respecting all of these. All of these. But you can't expect that if you are expecting to be treated a certain way. And I talk about expectations. Expectations to me are like boundaries. I'm sorry, but I am going to expect you to act a certain way if there is a certain vibe that's happening that I am holding. I am going to expect people to act in a certain mature way in many situations, okay? So you can have expectations, and you fucking should, okay? You should have some expectations about how people treat you. That's a good thing. I don't understand, and I don't even remember. I remember the time where I'm like, oh, I don't have any expectations, but fuck that. You should be expecting to be treated well. You don't have to go into everything with zero mindset. Okay, open mind. Oh, I'm going in with an open mind. No. When you go in with an open mind, it's really falling and allowing you to sink into that mother energy, and you end up babysitting people. And then friends will easily, siblings and things will easily put you into that mother category, and then they will treat you like a mother. That unconditional love. But the reality is there are unconditional love that it's dangerous. It's just right out dangerous because it's saying, hey, I'm going to treat you really badly and I'm going to forgive you and then do it again and then you'll forgive me. No. No, sorry, not today, not ever. So what is a good practice for you? Loving yourself, understanding you set the tone, you set the boundaries, you set everything, and everyone is going to treat you how you treat yourself. So how do you want to be treated? Find the solution and then be the outcome of that in your feeling state, not in your emotional state. How does it feel to have boundaries? Might be scary, but it pays off. You don't have to carry all the bullshit anymore. Okay? I love you. I hope this message finds you well and helps you on your healing journey. I will see you next time. Bye for now.